Hey everybody from
Beantown
Beantown
to
to
your
your
town.
town. This is Beantown Beatdown. Matthew Barris here.
Gabe Shamus coming at you from Beantown as well.
Yep, got some juice today. No liquor. Couldn't afford it. Though next week, I'll bring some cold ones.
All right. Cheers to that.
Yep.
So, starting off with some headlines.
Yep. Well, first and foremost, Dada 5000, who beat Kimbo Slice and then had a heart attack. Oh, sorry, he lost to Kimbo Slice and then he had a heart attack. Still in the hospital. He was actually supposed to be let go of last week, I think it was. And
Yeah.
last time I heard, he was still in the hospital. Yeah, because he came in overweight, and you could tell by that fight. I mean, both Kimbo and Dada for for 3 rounds, they were just exhausted. It's like they were moving like snails.
Oh man.
They had no cardio.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta keep up the cardio somehow, right?
Yeah, exactly. And although Bellator did a 2.9 rating that night, which is really great for them, but people were talking about it being one of the worst fights in the history of Bellator, and in fact, the only thing that really kind of saved it from being a catastrophe was, sorry, can't spell, was that Kimbo knocked out Dada in the last round. He just hit him with a few punches, like, and that was like, doom. So
just like that.
Yeah. So we'll keep you updated on his health.
Okay.
And of course, this Saturday night it's UFC 196. Conor McGregor taking on Nate Diaz, because as we all know, Rafael dos Anjos, he's out with a broken foot injury. Yeah, he's a broken foot. Yep, he was out with a broken foot injury. So Nate Diaz stepped in, and now Conor McGregor, instead of moving up to lightweight, he's moving up another weight. He's moving up to welterweight.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And Holly Holmes is fighting on the other card, taking on Miesha Tate. So we're really going to see if she's just a one-hit wonder.
Exactly.
And now we're going to get into Macho Doesn't Mean This.
All right, so moving on. This is a topic that that was really big for me, and we did this topic a long time ago. But I think for new viewers and people that haven't caught up with us for a while, definitely wanted to do this. I'm going to be talking about if there's actually sexuality in fighting. I think that I've said this before on the show. I think that there's 3 things we're meant for physically. We're meant for athletics, like sports and biking and whatever. We're meant for running. We're meant for athletics. We're meant for fighting, and we're meant for sex. That's like basically the type of physical things that we're as humans really good at, and some of us are good at one, the other, or the other. So obviously you as a fight fan, you cheer on these athletes that are very good at fighting. Some people as sports fans cheer on the athletes that are very good at sports. Obviously, sex is a whole other issue, and some people don't want to talk about it, but I think it's important to talk about it and to understand it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And so anyway, I think we've talked a lot about why we like violence, or why we like see people stand up for themselves and just clash. So I think there's that, but I also think there's a part of us that likes that there might be a sexual element to it. So obviously you've watched a lot of female MMA wrestlers. You've probably followed you probably followed both Holmes and Ronda Rousey through their careers.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So the first question I asked for you then is, so you have a respect for the fighters when you watch them, right? And what they do. But then when you watch female fighters, do you also see that they're attractive and kind of like them sexually?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's like we said before when we talked about this on the show. I like women with the total package. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, someone who's beautiful but can also fight.
Right, exactly. And last time when we talked about Rhonda on the cover of Sports Illustrated, yep, I was saying that she could, she definitely has the looks. She could have been a model or a movie star. Obviously, she is a movie star as well, but she could have been just that. But she, had her mother who was a judo master and all that stuff, and ended up being a fighting champion as well. So, like you said, full package. Sometimes a lot of people in society might have pushed her to be something where she was just an actress, just a model, you know what I mean? But in this case, she got to show that she has a completely other talent, and the world might not have known about that.
Well, yeah, exactly, and and plus, if you ever read her biography or you saw specials on her, after the Olympics in judo, I mean, she was lost. She, of course, you and I are gonna discuss a little something more about that once the Olympics start getting a little closer this year.
Right, exactly.
But the thing is about after judo, she won her bronze medal.
Right.
But there was little to no money. That she said that was enough to buy a Honda Accord. I think that's what she bought. And
right.
Buy some dog food, and as he said, like, well, they also have to take taxes out. And she said, like, look, having an Olympic medal doesn't change your life. It just changes your month. And once that month ends, the real world
comes back. Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So but anyway, so I think if you can see that in female fighters like her and like Home, then then I think the same thing can apply to all fighters. I think what I said last time when I talked about this as well is I talked about football, and there had been a lot of discussion about how to get more female fans of football, all sports really, right?
Right.
But one of the things that people said, even mainstream people, is like, well, women like looking at the men in the uniforms, and that is something that's different from other fans, and so let's just go with that, and so and I agree, they look very good and they have nice butts, but that's what women like, and that's what, honestly, if we're gonna be real about this, that's what some men like too.
Exactly.
So if you want to keep women fans, if you want to have gay fans, then you have to accept things like that. And so if you can accept that that fans can see them both as good athletes and and really attractive and desirable people, then we can accept that in fighting as well.
Yeah, and most of that part, it's like you can't really help, because it's like, okay, let's say if there are some women fans who don't know anything at all about the sport.
Right.
About the sport of mixed martial arts. Well, but let's say they have a crush on, let's say, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. They like his abs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all they know is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He does these karate kicks, and he's good looking, and he looks good in shorts.
Right.
Now, if that's what the majority of fans go for, female fans go to see those fights, then you can't help that. It's a it's a fan. The same thing with Oscar De La Hoya. It's like, yeah, okay, these female fans, they're not really knowledgeable on boxing. They, they may not know who Tyson is or Roy Jones, but all they know about Oscar De La Hoya is that he's good looking.
Right.
But it puts asses in the seats.
It brings them in, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the same thing with gay fans is what I'm saying. There are gonna be fans that happen to be gay, like my boyfriend, and there are gonna be people that normally wouldn't watch, like me, that might watch because the men are attractive. So, all of that, I think we have to, understand that there's a sexual element and be okay with that. Also, I think the thing about fighting is it's, like I said, there are things that we're very good at physically, and fighting's one of them, and athletics is one of them. And I think sometimes it can bleed into sex, like it's primal. All of this stuff is primal, fight or flight, that type of thing. So, it goes back to when we had to actually fight to survive and whatever. But I mean, what's also primal is our sex drive, and sometimes we use, even without realizing it, sometimes we use the same language about, sex as fighting. Like, how long can you last? Endurance. That's the same type of thing that's said about sex. You know what I mean? And then you've actually said, without realizing it, you've said a lot of times they said going at it. He said, "Oh, they were going at it." Like, you mean it like fist punching.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I also know.
But you know that is a sexual phrase as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. And when it comes, everyone says like what's worse, sex or violence? Well, it's like, well,
you mean in terms of seeing it on TV or something?
Yeah, or seeing it on TV. Well, here's my thing. I'd rather my kid, look at violence because, like, look, in the real world, there is going to be violence. I mean, there's, in any town USA, you see gangs being killed, or, you look at over in ISIS now, with the wars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But, of course, you teach them that not all the world is violence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with sex, it's like, that they have to learn it, but it's more like, you got to take baby steps with it.
Right. And that's interesting because I mean, I do agree with certain points of that, and I see where you're coming from, but I don't know. I also sometimes take a different take with it. Like, I mean, if I do worry about how much violence kids will see, just because it starts to desensitize them to it, and we've had and I don't agree with that just because you see it a lot or just because you do violent video games means you're going to do something violent. I think a lot of people know the difference, right? But you do get desensitized a little bit. You do start to think it's a little bit normal, and I think our culture, we get very desensitized to violence, and but then sex is this huge like mystery, this thing that we are never allowed to know about, never allowed to see, blah blah blah. There's a reason why porn is like the biggest industry. It's big. It's actually there's some sort of study that calculated that porn people that watch porn are way outnumber sports fans, and we know how many sports fans there are. You know what I mean? So I do agree with that. That you do have to take baby steps and whatever when it comes to sex, whereas violence is kind of everywhere, and you have to accept that. But at the same time, I don't think sex should be like completely walled off in this mystery, because that causes a lot of problems, and I don't know if it comes to is my kid gonna see complete gore movies all the time, or is my kid gonna see a little bit of sex? I kind of would rather go that way.
I think because this is one of the things that worries me if I ever decide to become a parent.
Right.
I always go back and forth. I was actually going back and forth with it when I was thinking about it on my way here.
Right.
And well, one of the things is that there has to be balance.
Right.
There has to, let them get into some art, like maybe music, maybe painting, writing, sculpting, have some violence. And as far as sex goes, I think now, of course, this is sort of the gift and the curse of in our generation now, unfortunately, and we have teens bringing in babies into this world.
Right, exactly.
I mean, like,
which is a big problem. Yeah.
Well, yeah, with Teen Mom. I mean, in the beginning, everyone's like, "Oh, this is, you're exploiting these girls. This is bad." It's like, and then it turns out. But then I found out that a few years back, since it's airing, teen pregnancy was going down in percentages because they saw the show and it was like, oh, now I see the consequence of it. You know, and
exactly.
especially that girl. Who's that one? The one that's always fucked up. Janelle, I think it was.
I don't watch the show, so I'm not going to be a help to you there.
Okay. But also Sarah Palin's
daughter. Yes, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah, even Bristol Palin. She was like, well, what if I wasn't the governor of Alaska's daughter? You know, it's you know, it's like.
And she's right about that. There are a lot of people that are not a politician's daughter that this happens to, and we should care just as much when you know, some average teen gets pregnant. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, so you have to. So that's why I say with sex, you know, baby steps. It's like, you know, you can't be like all shield. You can't really shield them too much because, like,
right.
You know,
I was about to say that. I think, you know, yes, baby steps. I think, you know, if you take that too far, like, you know, like not showing them at all, then that's actually kind of how they get in that situation as well. Like, if you don't know anything about sex and you don't understand anything, then when you are first experimenting, you're not going to know how to do it safely, and you're going to go with your with instincts taking over you instead of, you know, keeping yourself protected, whatever.
Yeah, and the parents are like, well, I don't want my kids, you know, dating. They're not mature enough, and I'm like, well, one, they learn to socialize.
Yes.
And two, you know, if you keep them from dating at a certain age, they're gonna go for the first person they see. Like an old friend of the family's of mine. One time, she went to a funeral. I think it was like my grandfather's funeral, and we were back, and we were talking, and she said, like, listen, there's always going to be a bad boy, but if you keep him sheltered, she's going to go for the first boy he sees.
Right.
So
right, exactly, and then it's more likely to be a bad boy that will, you know, they could either get them pregnant, put them in danger, both. I mean, it's, you know, you should know how to protect yourself in sex and how to protect yourself from whoever you're with, like whatever might happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's like, you know, that's also one of the, you know, because parents are like, well, it's a different world out there. There's child molesters. They're bringing kids in this world, and you know, it's like that's just in life. You know, in life in general, raising kids or sex and violence. You know, you gotta find a balance.
Exactly, and that's an interesting point. I like.
Yeah,
I like the point that you made about Teen Mom, because that actually is a good point. That even though it seems like it's highlighting, well, it is highlighting something that's very wrong in our society, and, you know, and I actually said the same thing, like, oh God, why is this show on the air? That means that things are horrendous, blah blah. But like you said, the awareness from other teens that watched it, you know, actually helped them decide that they were going to do everything possible to make sure it doesn't happen to them. They knew why they didn't want to do it, and were therefore extra careful to make sure they wouldn't become one of those teen moms.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like Scared Straight for young girls.
Right.
Yeah, you know the TV show Beyond Scared Straight, or the documentary film.
Yes.
Also, speaking of Scared Straight, just to go a little off topic here, I was reading yesterday. Well, you know that Screech is from Dustin Diamond, who played Screech on Saved by the Bell. You know he's in jail. Well, I read a few days. Actually, it was a few days ago. I read this. He actually got raped in jail.
Oh.
Yeah, and here's the thing. The guy is serving 7 years for child molestation. And 2, the guy was a fan of his. Yeah, it was like he was in the shower, and and he told Dustin that he was going to stab him unless he let him rape him, and he said, like, he had to talk in the Screech voice. Yeah, and he was... he got
yeah. Well, okay, so that brings up a good point, is that there's, you know, there is also an underbelly of, you know, there's an underbelly of really bad things with both sex and violence. And so, yeah, with sex we also have a terrible problem with child predators and that type of thing, or or sexual violence towards anybody, and in this case, towards someone that because he was on TV and because he liked the character. So I mean, there's yes, you have to be aware of that underbelly, and yes, that's bad. But I think I think it comes from more from ignorance than from like trying to steer away from it. Is one thing if you have young kids that shouldn't know about that stuff yet. But but for those of us that should know about this stuff, we have to know about this stuff. We have to face it head on. And I don't actually. I think that yes, there is more sexual predators and stuff than before, because we have a fucked up society, and there's all sorts of shit that we're dealing with, and people don't feel appreciated, and there's all sorts of reasons for crime. But at the same time, I think like with Teen Mom, I think part of the answer is the awareness of it. So I think there is more sexual predators, but at the same time, I don't think there's exponentially more than there ever was in the past. I think there was a lot in the past. We just weren't aware of them, and that's even more dangerous.
Oh yeah, because you always heard the stories like in the 70s or whatever about kids that go over a friend's house or whatever, and then the father molested them, or they go to the uncle's house and the uncles touch them, and
right, exactly,
and stuff. And it's also not to really joke in the face of tragedy, but it's just like thinking of Dustin Diamond. I mean, granted, in real life he had a reputation for being a narcissistic jackass. I mean, and of course, for the crime that he did, he deserves to be punished to the furthest extent of the law.
Right.
And of course, is it disappointing that he was raped? Given who he was. But at the same time, to use the old Dr. Phil quote, you choose the behavior, you choose the consequences. And also, I mean, of course, Beyond Scared Straight is off the air now, but could you imagine an episode of Scared Straight where Dustin Diamond comes in and yells at the kids? He's like, "You want to be like me? I used to be on a TV show, motherfucker!
Right.
Now I'm in jail and I just got raped. I'm in this cell for 10 years. Give me your damn shoes. You boy, give me your damn shoes. Give me those shoes."
Right, exactly. Anyway, to get back onto topic, okay. I think yeah, that we should be aware that sex plays a role in all of this, and and yeah, so anyway, that it is very primal, and sometimes really terrible things happen with primal stuff like murders, and violence, like we've talked about, but also it's human nature. It's it's kind of what we're about. It's kind of all the great expressions, all the great art, all the great whatever. Comes from either either really great emotions or really bad emotions, and or sex, or drive to violence, or drive to sex, and I think that sometimes we like fighting because of the violence, and sometimes we like fighting because it actually kind of blurs the line sort of into sex, and the way you might think watching two MMA women fight, the way you might bring some sex into that, like sometimes watching fights, between men, I bring sex into that. When we were watching, what was the one? What was the last When Should a Fight Be Stopped that we were watching?
The last one we watched was it was Nick Diaz and Takanori Gomi.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember pointing out to you, off the air, I pointed out to you, isn't it strange that they have these words across their butt. And you know, you don't think about that because it's, you know, you're just looking at the fighters and it's just athletics. But yeah, for, you know, for those of us that think differently, I was like, that is, you know, that is a little suggestive. Let's be real, you know. So, so you know, you know, so I think no matter who's fighting, you know, someone watching is gonna blend sex into it. It is a primal drive. You're either gonna fight, fuck, or run. So,
yeah.
There we go.
Yep, there we go. And now let's get into a special blast from the past. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about the Marvin Hagler, marvelous Marvin Hagler, versus John the Beast Mugabi. This was a fight that took place in March of '86. This was the first fight on Showtime.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. You know, Showtime, of course, now is celebrating its 30-year anniversary. It's their 30-year anniversary. So,
cool.
Yeah. So I've been watching old fights that have been on there. I was watching Tapia versus Ayala, the Holyfield versus Tyson fights, and you know, I saw this fight. I saw the old Holyfield versus Douglas fight. And this fight between Mugabi and Holyfield, it was just an amazing fight. I mean, John the Beast Mugabi really did give marvelous Marvin Hagler a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. I mean, for a few rounds, even in the first round, it was like a reminder of the old Hagler-Hearns fight where both guys were just going at it, just bop, 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 and they're just exchanging blows and exchanging, you know, exchanging shots, you know, and
yeah, I was watching the highlights of this as well, and I was like, and yeah, this one, you know, unlike the other ones that we were watching for like when should a fight be stopped, this one was definitely like seemed completely even-handed. It was like this is the type of thing, you know, probably that you fight fans look for is, you know, is like it really was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, yeah, it was a good fight up until the 12th, when Marvin knocked him out, and of course that was the last victory for Marvin. Of course, his next fight would be against Sugar Ray Leonard when Sugar Ray came out of retirement, and Ray beat him, and Marvin went into retirement. But you know, actually, Sugar Ray Leonard was actually at that fight. He was at the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in the audience, and he says that when he was in the. Because I remember in interviews and reading his book, he was there actually with Michael J. Fox, and he said he was watching the fight with him, and he said, you know, I can beat that guy. Sugar Ray was like, yeah. He started thinking like, yeah, I can beat that guy, and he started, you know, making calls like, hey, I want to come out of retirement. I want to fight him. I want to fight marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Interesting. So history is made at fights, not just in the ring, but outside for the other fighters that are watching, huh?
Yeah, and there were some good celebrities there that night. Burt Reynolds was there.
Michael J. Fox, you just said.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox was there as well. Tom Selleck. Yep, Magnum PI himself. He was in the audience.
Yeah, I can't be surprised that he attends the fights.
Yeah. And it was just also Tommy Hearns was there. He did a little commentary on the fights, and you know, this was an amazing kickoff for Showtime. You know, getting in there trying to compete with you know, HBO, and they've always been neck and neck, you know, with each other, and they've always been able to put on good fights. I mean. Sometimes I go back and forth. You know, I was going back and forth. I was like, well, you know, because I grew up with HBO and I watched more HBO than Showtime. And then I was watching Showtime when Tyson was on there, and then when Mayweather was there, even though I saw his fights on HBO. So it's like, now I look at it, it's like, you know, I can't really choose between the two. You know, they both put on great fights, you know.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I said, I was completely surprised by, you know, again, even-handed this was, and like just how you know, it really was pretty much 1 for 1. Maybe there was like in the 5th or 6th, it was like you know, one of them got 2 in, but like really it was completely 1 for 1. Boom and then boom and then boom. boom. You know, it's almost like going back, kind of tying into what I was talking about. Why do we like fights? I think we like fights in movies for that reason. That we're trying to keep score, and this was kind of like a movie fight because in the movies you want it to be back and forth. You want it, the person that you're cheering for to get one pretty bad, but then just come right back. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, just like in the Rocky movies.
Sorry, that's the sound that we actually have to wrap this up.
Yep. So we gotta go here, but check it out on YouTube. The fight on YouTube whenever you can.
Yeah, totally.
Go to our Facebook page, Beantown Beatdown, and check us out on Bloody Knuckles TV on YouTube.
Exactly.
So from Beantown to your town, this is Beantown Beatdown. Vios con Dios.